रामानुजदयापात्रं ज्ञानवैराग्यभूषणं श्रीमद्वेङ्कटनाथार्यं वन्दे वेदान्तदेशिकं लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्परां यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये। माता पिता युवतयस्तनया विभूतिः सर्वं यदेव नियमेन मदन्वयानाम् आद्यस्य नः कुलपतेर्वकुलाभिरामं श्रीमत्तदङ्घ्रियुगलं प्रणमामि मूर्ध्ना भूतं सरश्च महदाह्वयभट्टनाथ श्रीभक्तिसार कुलशेखर योगिवाहान् भक्ताङ्घ्रिरेणु परकाल यतीन्द्रमिश्रान् श्रीमत्पराङ्कुशमुनिं प्रणतोऽस्मि नित्यम्। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयम् उदीरयेत्। व्यासं वसिष्ठनप्तारं शक्तेः पौत्रम् अकल्मषं पराशरात्मजं वन्दे शुकतातं तपोनिधिं। व्यासाय विष्णुरूपाय व्यासरूपाय विष्णवे नमो वै ब्रह्मनिधये वासिष्ठाय नमो नमः। अचतुर्वदनोर्ब्रह्मा द्विबाहुरपरो हरिः अपाललोचनः शम्भुः भगवान् बादरायणः। पाराशर्यवचःसुधां सुमनसः दुग्धाब्धिमध्योद्धृतां संसाराग्निविदीपन व्यपगत प्राणात्मसञ्जीवनीं पूर्वाचार्यसुरक्षितां बहुमतिं व्याघात दूरस्थिताम् आनीतां तु निजाक्षरैः सुमनसः भौमाः पिबन्त्वन्वहम्। निगमकल्पतरोर्गलितं फलं शुकमुखात् अमृतद्रवसंयुतं पिबत भागवत रसमालयं मुहुरहो रसिकाः भुवि भावुकाः। सान्द्रानन्दावबोधात्मकमनुपमितं कालदेशावधिभ्यां निर्मुक्तं नित्यमुक्तं निगमशतसहस्रेण निर्भस्यमानम् अस्पष्टं दृष्टमात्रे पुनः उरुपुरुषार्थात्मकं ब्रह्मतत्त्वं तत्तावत् भाति साक्षात् गुरुपवनपुरे। हन्तभाग्यं जनानाम् अग्रे पश्यामि तेजो निबिडतरकला यावळी लोभनीयं पीयूषाप्लावितोऽहं तदनु तदुतरे दिव्यकैशोरवेशं तारुण्यारम्भरम्यं परमसुखरसास्वाद रोमाञ्चिताङ्गैः आवीतं नारदाद्यैः विलसदुपनिषत् सुन्दरी मण्डलैश्च। बाहुद्वन्द्वेन रत्नोज्ज्वलवलयभृता शोणपाणिप्रवाळेनोपता वेणुनाळी प्रसृतनखमयूकाङ्गुलीं सङ्गशारां कृत्वा वक्त्ररविन्दे सुमधुरविकसदरागमुद्भव्यमानैः शब्दब्रह्मामृतैः त्वं शिशिरितभुवनैः सिञ्च सिञ्च मे कर्णवीथीं योगीन्द्राणां त्वदङ्गेष्वधिकसुमधुरं मुक्तिभाजां निवासो भक्तानां कामवर्षद्युतरुकिसलयं नाथ ते पादमूलं नित्यं चित्तस्थितं मे पवनपुरपते Krishna Karunya Sindho Krishna Karunya Sindho Kritva Niseshatapan Pradishatu Paramananda Sandoha Lakshmi Ajñātvā te mahatvam yadiha nigaditam Vishwanatha kshameta Stotram chaitat sahastrottaram adhikataram tvat prasadaya bhuyat Vedhanarayaniyam Shrutishu cha janusha stutyata varnanena sphitam Leelavatarairidamitha kurutam Ayurarogya saukhyam Ayurarogya saukhyam Janaki kanta smaranam Gopika Jeevana Smaranam Namassadase Namassabhaye. With the abundant blessings, benign blessings of Shri Apati, we have gathered in the very sacrosanct premises of this beautiful temple, in this Devasthanam, which has offered and been so gracious in giving us the space to conduct Shrimad Bhagavata Mahasatram. Satra Shabdeti Yajñavachakaha. Satram in Sanskritam means Yajñam. So there's a vow, there's a pledge that we have taken that for a series of 7 days, we shall be conducting Shrimad Bhagavata Saptaham. Sapta is 7. Saptaham is a series of 7 days. And we have a combination of Parayanam and Pravachanam. Parayanam is where the Astikas, the Bhagavatottamas, recite the verses of Shrimad Bhagavatam. It comprises of 12 cantos called the Skandas, and always been traditionally told that we have 18,000 shlokas. Though we don't have 18,000, we have slightly lesser than that. Don't quote marshal me later, because AI will tell you it is around 15,382. So all those verses are being recited by the Astikas through the day, right from 5 a.m. in the morning. And towards the end of the day, we have the Pravachanam, which is the Upanyasam, which is the lecture series in Angla Bhasha, which is English. 18,000 verses, 12 cantos, the quintessence of all those verses humanly can't be summarized in 2 hours by a primitive mortal like me who's known to digress. So, given the constraints, alpascha kalo bhavascha vighnaha, I'm extremely indebted as much to the temple to Sri Annamalai and his Dharma Patni. He's a great Astika, and we had a recent yatra of 190 Astikas to different sites in Sri Lanka, and that got over yesterday. And there was severe tension about the visa and the passport. So he took all the strain, pain in ensuring that I come to Frankfurt. Kudos to those efforts, that bhakti, that sincerity of him and his Dharma Patni. He has a very nice name. It is very popular in Tamil Nadu. So I'm indebted to the Astikas together who have been the volunteers, the driving force in organizing the Saptaham. I've been in constant touch with Srimati Malati. Malati ji has been every day in touch with me, and she has taken the efforts. And I see many of you who have come today. It completely depends on my speaking style and content that will make you come the other days. So you have left it to me. That said, for the ease of listening, there are a few things that we can follow. One, we can check if our mobile phones are on airplane mode. So when you go, there are few symbols, right? That one you can do. Right hand side, if it's an Android or an iPhone, you've got the pressing thing where it'll ask you for switch off. I'm sure nothing is going to be that important. You can switch it off for 2 hours. But if you feel there are a few things like Jagat Rakshanam, Jagan Niyanta, all of that, on the left hand side, you may have that volume button. You can press that down. Despite me telling this, I'm sure there will be 2 phones that will ring. Just check. Just ensure. I'm sure you would have taken care, but still, just check if that phone is taken care or not. The topic is Bhagavatam, but if there are little children who want to make it Kishkindha Kandam, the parents have to ensure that if they may take a few more years to reach that level, there is one more tent outside. There it is being live telecast. You can shift there, same person, same 100 kgs, you listen there also. Nothing will change. In Dharma, in Sanatana Dharma, I'm sure this is just a census for my understanding. How many of you speak Tamil? How many of you speak Tamil? Peshakudiyava kai thukittal. Kannadalli eshtu maatartare. Telugu varu unnara ikkada? Malayalam undu ivide. Naattukarar. Pinne. Hindi mein baat karne wale aasti. See now, don't raise hands. Whose Matra Bhasha is that? I'm not checking how many of you are polyglots here. Okay. So that I can bring those languages then and there. Now, in Sanatana Dharma, we have a plethora of acharyas who have made this religion, this particular civilization very rich. Of the many granthas that we know, we have Vedam, which is the Taru. Nigama kalpataror galitam phalam shukamukat. So Nigama, Vedam is the very root. Vedanta, which is the Upanishads, form the very Antima Bhagam of the Vedas. Then we have the Itihasas and the Puranas. Itihasas are 2 in number. One is Itihasa Sreshtham Shrimad Ramayanam. Second is Shri Mahabharatam, Bharata Panchamo Vedaha Jamata Dashamo Graha. Then we have the Puranas, generally recorded as 18 in number. Of the Puranas that we know, the world sees Shrimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam as a very revered, a very acclaimed, a very popular Puranam. Shri Vishnu Puranam is equally important, which has 6,000 verses, used by Trimata Acharyas. So Bhagavatam comes as a beautiful medley between Shri Mahabharatam and Shri Krishna Charitra. In Shri Mahabharatam, we come across 11 Akshauhini Sainyam which fought on the side of the Kauravas, and 7 Akshauhini Sainyam which fought on the side of the Pandavas. 11 plus 7, 18. Prior to the happening of the Yuddham, Krishna wanted to ensure that Kauravas are on the losing side. So he did every possible strategy to ensure that this happened. One was to ensure that Ashwatthama doesn't become the commander-in-chief, because Ashwatthama was the only son born to Dronacharya and his Dharmapatni Kripi. Kripi's brother was Kripacharya. So Kripa's sister Kripi was married to Dronacharya, who was the son of Bharadwaja. They had one son called as Ashwatthama. This Ashwatthama was the very dear son of Drona. Drona, despite being a very good teacher, there was a fallacy. He was very partial towards his son. We call it dynasty politics in Bharatadesham. Very partial towards his son. So he would teach extra portions to his son. So Krishna wanted to ensure that a person with that knowledge, in set theory we call it as A complement, because there is something beyond set A of the universal set which he knew. So he didn't want him to become the commander-in-chief. So what did Krishna do? Krishna became the Pandava Duta, which is the messenger of the Pandavas. While he took a sojourn to Hastinapura, and on his way back, he said, Ashwatthama, walk with me. Ashwatthama didn't realize media was following him. So Krishna and Ashwatthama walked. from a distant gazebo, Duryodhana and Shakuni were looking at these two people speak. They knew they were speaking, but they couldn't listen to what were the transactions. So that is when Krishna acted as if his ring was just falling. And Ashwatthama said, Krishna, your ring. He caught and he gave it to Krishna. Krishna wanted this drishyam to be seen by Shakuni and Duryodhana so that they get doubts about the sincerity of Ashwatthama. So now they said, Isko dekh lo. 23rd is the elections. So something is happening. He may change sides. So be careful. So meanwhile, so Ashwatthama was never given the role of being a commander-in-chief. Bhishma became, and there was a, I'm not getting into the details because it's a very detailed section in Udyoga Parva of Sri Mahabharatam. Detailed section of Udyoga Parva in Sri Mahabharatam, where when Bhishma is the commander-in-chief on the Dharma Bhumi, Karna will never fight. So that was the understanding. So after Bhishma was put to the bed of arrows, Sharatalpa Gato Bhishma, that is when Dronacharya became, when Dronacharya was beheaded, came Karna and then Shalya. So this is the sequence. So Ashwatthama never got to become the commander-in-chief. Finally, when all the sons barring Duryodhana were killed by Bhima on the Dharma Bhumi, Kurukshetra Bhumi, there was a Dvandva Yuddham between Bhima and Duryodhana. Duryodhana was struck with the mace by Bhima on his thigh and his backbone. So he was lying in a very, very vegetative state on the battlefield by the banks of a lake. Yatha mridhe kaurava srunjayanam vireshvatho viragatim gateshu vrukodarad viddha gadabhimarshad bhagno urudande dhritarashtra putre bhagna urudande. Uru means thigh. Uru jate urvashi. We call her because she is believed to be born from the thigh of the Manmatha of Narayana. So that is why she is called Uruvashi, Urvashi. There is a beautiful work by Mahakavi Kalidasa called Vikramurvashiyam, where he talks about the love story of a Raja called Pururavas and Urvashi. So Bhagna Urudande Dhritarashtra Putre. Dandam is a rod. Your backbone is like a rod, right? So Bhagna Urudande. He was struck. Dhritarashtra Putre. When Duryodhana was helpless, was in a vegetative state, couldn't move any further, Ashwatthama came. He said, at least now make me the commander-in-chief. Nobody was left. Sainyam was gone. 99 sons dead. Karna dead. At least now make me the commander-in-chief. आप लोग समझ सकते हैं ना, because आप is in that state. So as he was to be made the commander-in-chief, 3 people were left. One was Dronaputra Ashwatthama. Second is Kritavarma. Third is Kripacharya. These were the only 3 people who could survive the Yuddham. And amongst the 3, this man was made the commander-in-chief. This Ashwatthama goes below the shade of a tree. It is in the evening time. The night has set in. He begins to contemplate as to how to win over the Pandavas, because it was a very tough situation. That is when he found an owl seated on the branches of the tree and trying to attack the other birds. He understood that amongst the birds, the oviparous category, this owl is very active, being nocturnal. It can see during the night. So he thought, why should I wait for the sun to rise? I don't have to wait for the sunrise. Why don't I attack the Pandavas in the mid of the night when they are sleeping? It is okay. When we have flouted all the rules related to warfare, why should I adhere to? So he goes to the tent where the Pandavas are sleeping. That is when he listens to the soldiers who have been guarding the tent, the 5 are sleeping, they said. So he thought the 5 Pandavas are sleeping and shot arrows at them. Bhartu priyam drauniriti sma pashyan Krishna sutanam swapatam shiramsi upaharad vipriyameva tasya jugupsitam karma vigarhayanti. Krishna sutanam. Who is Krishna? Very good. In Sri Mahabharatam, wherever Drupada Nandini is addressed, she is called Adasatyana. If you shake this, then that thing will not be. So, Drupada Nandini is referred to as Krishna. Akaranta Shabdanam, it is Trilingam. Uma, Rama, Saumya, Lata, it ends, right? Generally, they are all Strilinga Vachaka Shabdam. Akara Vachakanam, generally it is Pullingam. Ramaha, Krishnaha, Govindaha, Padmanabha. It ends with the sound A. So it is Pullingam. There is no specific rule like this, but generally there is a observation made. Some words can exist in both the lingams. Padmaha is also correct. Padma is also correct. Padmam is also correct. So in certain cases, it can exist in all 3 genders: masculine, gender, neuter, feminine, and neuter. So Krishna means Draupadi. Krishna means Vasudeva Krishna. So that Krishna, that A should be specified in Sanskritam. We get confused between Hindi as a bhasha and Sanskritam as a bhasha. In Hindi, it is not directly derived from Sanskritam. It goes through a process of Avadhi, Brajbhasha, then touches Prakritam and then arrives as Hindi. It touches 3 other languages and then arrives. So in that language, the last sound is taken in. Krishna, Govind, Ram. That is in Hindi. Whereas the words are Sanskritam words. So Rama, Krishna, Akaram should come. But in Dakshina Bharatam, it gets extended. Rama, Krishna, wrong. So that is Krishna, Rama. Because if you imagine like the curious case of Benjamin Button, we have to time travel. And we have to say Krishna. Then Draupadi will come. Krishna will not come. If you say Krishna, only Vasudeva's son will come. Krishna Sutanam Swapatam Shiramsi. Krishna's children born through her 5 husbands. The 5 sons were killed. Upaharad vipriyameva tasya jugupsitam karma vigarhayanti. Then Draupadi, see, if you ask who won the Mahabharata Yuddham, I can say Dharma won. But if you ask if the Pandavas essentially won, it is tough because they lost many of their own kith and kin. 5 sons born to Draupadi were dead. Abhimanyu was dead. Hidimba's son Ghatotkacha was dead. So they had many corpses around them. Draupadi felt so bad because towards the end of the Yuddham, she lost her sons as well. Mata Shishunam Nidhanam Sutanam Nishamya Ghoram Paritapyamana Tadarubashpat Karakulakshi Tam Santvayannaha Kiritamali. Draupadi said, see, at the end of the day, when the Yuddham is coming to its investiture, what I see is the 5 sons of mine who are dead. That is when Arjuna came and said, don't worry, Draupadi, I will avenge the death of our sons. I will bring the one who has caused this. So he takes his chariot. Through CCTV footage, they find out it is Ashwatthama who has done this criminal act. So they follow Ashwatthama. Ashwatthama only now realizes that he ended up killing the 5 sons of Draupadi and not the Pandavas. So he says, now that I've taken up this mission to ensure that the sons of Draupadi are dead, I will go one step further, kill the next generation as well. That is when Abhimanyu, see, little Mahabharatam exposure we need here. Pandavas were on an exile for 12 years. It is called Vanavasam. 13th year, 1 year of incognito called Ajnatavasam. So they went to Matsyadesham, Virata Raja. There, they were in disguise because they should never be spotted. That time, Arjuna, to fulfill the curse that was pronounced on him by Urvashi, again, Urvashi will come back in picture. So, he became a character called Brihannala. This Brihannala used to be teaching Natya Shastram, dance, to the princess of that kingdom called as Uttara Kumari. Uttara, she was called. Towards the end of 1 year, the king realizes that the dance teacher was no one but Arjuna, because Arjuna was very popular in those days. His jersey used to be hung in most of the bedrooms. Everybody wanted to marry Arjuna, action king. So, when they wanted to marry Arjuna, this king said, you might as well marry my daughter. That is when Arjuna refused. He said, see, if I marry my student, then it will set a wrong trend. Then parents will be worried to send their children to school if teachers start marrying the students. So instead, you get your daughter married to my son called Abhimanyu. So Abhimanyu married Uttara. A few months before the Yuddham had begun, Uttara showed her strip, that red color pregnancy strip. She said, I am pregnant. He immediately tweeted, congrats Uttara. So this Abhimanyu went into the Yuddha Kshetram. He died. Uttara was still pregnant, right? That is when this Ashwatthama wanted to kill the fetus in her. So he released an astram called Brahma Shiras. It is, if Brahmastram is surf, Brahma Shiras is surf excel. So he released this particular astram, for which he didn't know how to retract it. See, if you have got the wrong endpoint in titration, after putting phenolphthalein, do you do that? Those experiments? Germany la kedayada irka illiya adhu illa India la pannittinga ondunno seri. So titration is where you reach an endpoint between two different liquids. So you'll have to do that samudra manthana like this. At one point you'll get the say, you'll get 116.3. But titration doesn't end there. You have to get something called the concurrent titer value. So what is the best way? Either you do it again and get another endpoint which is confusing, or tell your teacher I've got a concurrent titer value. This is called jugad. Okay. Now, this particular Ashwatthama, he was half-baked. He knew how to release but not take it back. That is when he released the Brahmastram. Draunyastra viplushtamidam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopa kukshim gatiyatta chakraha matuscha me yasharanam gatayaha. He released that astram, which was aimed, whose objective was to kill the fetus within Uttara's garbha. So this became national news. Ashwatthama release karne wala hai. Nation wants to know. 10 of them got together at 9 p.m. and shouted together. So what did nation want to know? When he is going to release? Meanwhile, the carrying mother, that is Uttara, she got tense. She said, oh, my child is going to die. My husband is dead. This child is also going to die. She went and lamented to her mother-in-law. Who was the mother-in-law? Subhadra. Subhadra. Subhadra went and told her co-wife, Draupadi, Krishna. These two went and told their mother-in-law, called as Kunti. In their house, they had overlived people. They were the Dumbledores of those days. So, all of them lived. I don't know if those of you who have grown in Bharata Desham, there used to be an advertisement called Woodward's Grape Water. If a child cries, immediately they'll say, a series of grandmothers will say, give Woodwards when you were a child, I gave. So all of them would have lived in that house. Similarly, all these 4 women got together and they said, see, the only person who can get us out of this crisis is Krishna. Krishna, Mahabaho, Paramatma, Sanatana, Krishna, our 101, come here, SOS, come. Krishna, right? He said, don't worry, I will protect. Draunyastra viplushtamidam madangam santana bijam kuru pandavanam jugopa kukshim gatiyatta chakraha matuscha me yasharanam gatayaha. So that is when it is believed that Krishna took the form of a Angushtamatra Purushaha. Now don't ask how. See, when we go into certain scriptures, there is an assumption made. Even in geometry, we make assumptions, right? Given, to prove, assume. We assume. So, Srimad Bhagavatam clearly states that Bhagavan Paramatma Sakshat was born as Krishna. So, he could do that form, change of form. So, he went into the Garbham and went around the developing fetus. So, you have three layers: amnion, chorion, and placenta. So, that is where you have the Garbhodakam Jalam, which is called amniotic fluid. So, he went around that child. So, now this developing fetus was confused. He thought, this is the only place which can't be encroached. Who is this new person who's going around me? So this fetus started looking this way and that way. Who is around me? So the fetus looked. Ikshanam means to see. Ikshate, he saw. Around. Pari, around. Pari ikshate is Parikshit. So he started looking around. Who is this one who is encroached? So this child was protected by Krishna in Garbham. And Bhagavan went around and the child was finally born. But Mahabharatam Adi Parva gives a slightly different version. It says that when this child was born, there was absolutely no motion. This child was akin to a log of wood or tashtapashana sannibham, like a stone. No reaction at all. That is when the mother surrendered to Krishna and there was an ashariri vakyam. Sharira means what? Deham, body. See, this is where we need to understand the bhasha. Sanskritam will never ever give you words which mean the same thing. There will be a subtle difference. Shariram, shiryate iti shariram. That which keeps reducing in size is called shariram. That which keeps increasing in size is deham. So if someone has put on weight, you should say deham. When someone has lost weight, you should say shariram. There's a difference. Shiryate iti shariram. So the one who owns the body is called Shariri. When you can't see the video and listen only to the audio, it is called Ashariri. We say Ashariri Vak, right? In Tamil, people say Asariri, Asariri. It's Ashariri, Shakaram. See, every language will have its own pros and cons. In Prachina Tamil, there is no difference between Ka and Ga. So, Kanaka, they may say Kanaga. Because Ka, Ga, there is no difference. In Telugu Bhasha, wherever Shakaram needs to apply, they may say Syanka Chakram. It's Shanka Chakram. In Telugu Bhasha, they may say, every language will have its own. See, this Ra of Tamil is generally not applicable for other languages. Kori code. Kozi code. Andal says, Ari Mare Kanna, Unjuni Kai Karavel, Ari Ulpukku Muhandu Kodai Theri, Uri Mudalvan Uruvam Pol Makerth, Pari Amtolaya Parpanavan Kail, Ari Pol Minni Valamburi Pol Nindarind, Tarade, Sargamudita, Sarama Rai Pol, Vara, Ulaginil, Pedidai, Nangalu Margari, Nirada, Magirindelo, Lavendras. Even the so-called protectors of the Tamil language in Tamil Nadu may find it tough. So, Ashariri Vak said, whoever suffices these two conditions, a person who's a Naishtika Brahmachari, who's a Brahmachari, who observes Brahmacharyam, and a person who has never ever uttered the untruth, if that person touches this log of food, this child shall gain life. Nobody ventured to touch the child. Because if they touch and the child doesn't come back to life, it may disprove one of the conditions. So they said, Aaj mera ek vrat hai. Sabudana jaisa. Kuch. Aaj the Ekadashi hai na. So they said, we will not touch. Finally, the only person left in the tent was Krishna. And people knew. One, in Krishna's house, it was not ration card. It was ration book. Rukmani Krishna, Jambavati Krishna, Satyabhama Krishna. If they all lived in India, 2,500 Ladki Behan Yojana, everyone will get 2,500 rupees. 1 cylinder per month also they'll get. Second, untruth the person should have not spoken. But you know what Krishna says in Sri Mahabharatam? Yadi me brahmacharyam syat satyam cham avyahatam yena jivatu balakaha. If I have observed brahmacharyam and if I have always uttered the truth, let this child come back to life. This child started crying. It is a €1,000,000 question. How? This answer I will give it to you on Thursday at about 7:15 p.m. You have to remind. So you have to come that day, till that day. So this child survived, and this child's existence was a test to Krishna. It was a pariksha to Krishna. The child tested Krishna's abilities. Since it was a pariksha to Krishna, the child was also called Parikshit. So this child was born. This Parikshit later becomes a very good king, good administrator who takes good decisions. Now, one day, this Parikshit went on a hunting spree. He went to the forest. Now, don't ask me what will Pita say and all of that. He went hunting, that's all. So, he went to the forest and he became very tired. It was very exhausting. So, he wanted to drink some water. He found a Rishi's ashramam. He went to that Rishi's ashramam and checked if there would be somebody who will give him water. There was no one in the ashramam but the Rishi who was in deep dhyanam, tapasya. What is tapasya? Tapaha alochane dhatu. Tapaha means alochanam, internalizing, thinking well. So when you are completely engrossed, you would be not cognizant of the noises that come around. So this Parikshit said, water. This person didn't reply. Somehow Parikshit, who is a generally seasoned, cultured king, that day becomes suddenly very angry. He spotted a dead snake on the ground. He lifted that snake with the arrow. There he followed Dharma Shastram, because Shastram says that you cannot touch a reptile. $15 if you go to Singapore Zoo, you pay, you can hold that python. $15. You cannot touch a reptile. Okay. Now, don't ask me what is the science behind it. I would like to understand what Boyle and Bernoulli says. Bernoulli and all has no equation here. You should not touch. If you want to touch, touch. What can I say? See, in Sanatana Dharma, there is no one monitoring body. It will just say these are the rules. If you want to obey, obey. If you don't want, your own karma, do whatever you want. Go touch a reptile. இதுக்காகவே 4 பேர் துட்டுட்டு வருவா. சொல்லிட்டார் இல்லையா, இன்னைக்கு தேடி பிடிச்சு பல்லியை தொட வேண்டியதுதான் இல்லையா? So this king lifted that dead snake and garlanded the rishi who was in deep tapasya, saying that if I have been asking questions and you are not replying, you are akin to the dead snake, because that dead snake wouldn't respond either. So he wanted to bring a simile as realistic as possible, and he left. Simple incident. But this garlanding of the rishi with the dead snake by the king was noticed by the rishi's son's friend. Rishi's son's friend. Enna vambu paranga. This boy went and told that Rishi's son, what are you? What kind of a son are you? Your father is being humiliated by the administrator of this region called as Parikshit, and you are not aware of this. This boy immediately pronounced a curse. He said that this Parikshit who has humiliated my father should die of a snake bite of a particular snake called Takshaka. See, the region around Kashmiram, northern parts of Pakistan, was traditionally the region of the reptiles, is what we believe. Because Kashyapa Vihara is Kashmira. Kashyapa, as a Prajapati, Prajapati means you give rise, you become, either you nourish various genus and species, because in binomial nomenclature we have, right? We have phylum, kingdom, family, species, genders, phylum, Coelenterata, Annelida, Arthropoda. Then we have, for example, you'll have a species and a genus, Rana, Hexadactyla, Naja, all this will be, you remember? Yeah, here only automobile then. Okay. Now, that region was famous for snakes. So, Kashyapa Vihara is Kashmira. Kashmira is a Sanskrita word. That is why when you do any ritual, samskara, you have to offer your fruits by telling Bhagavan what you're going to eat. Right? Traditionally, we use Sanskritam words. Kadali phalam nivedayami for banana. Right? For apple, we say Kashmira phalam nivedayami. Kashmira is a very prachina shabdam. Sharajyotsna shuddham shashivadanam Kashmira nagara viharam para sharadam parankushadhara varada abhaya pasha pustaka kara surachita padambuja shobhana shveta pankajasana surasana Purari Guru Hridaya Ranjani Murari Snusha Niranjani Kalavati Kamalasana Yuvati Kalyanam Kalayatu Saraswati. This is in the ragam called Kalavati. So it was called as Sharada Peetham, that particular region. There used to be the largest library. You have Panini from that region, great grammarian in Samskrita Bhasha. So that region is where we believe traditionally snakes belong to. That is why the foremost of the snakes is called Ananta. Since he was engaged in services called Sheshatvam, he's called Shesha. First of Sheshas, he's called Adi Shesha. So this Adi Shesha's original name was Ananta. So Ananta was a Naga. That is why that region is called Anantnag in Kashmir Pradesham. Then you have Takshaka Shila. Takshaka is a snake. Takshila. So there was a dynasty by Lalitaditya Muktapida who constructed the Martanda Surya temple in the 7th century AD, 1100 years before, 1300 years before. That dynasty was called as Karkota dynasty. So Karkota is another snake. So you will have snake related words there. So this particular Takshaka was a snake with a virulent poison. I'm sure if you have studied Greek history, you'll come across a poison called hemlock. So likewise, there's a poison of Takshaka. So this Takshaka was bent upon killing. This is where there is another story here, sidetrack. Shri, in Adi Parva of Shri Mahabharatam, we come across a situation where the real estate had to be partitioned. So this Dhritarashtra, waste king, useless administrator, he gave one useless piece of land called as Khandavam to the Pandavas. But Krishna said, don't ever keep repenting or cribbing about what you have in your life. Make the best use of it. This Khandavam we will transform. They recruited one consultant, architect called as Maya. So he constructed one state-of-the-art capital with good skylight, ventilation, everything. That region was called Khandava Prastham. But Indra facilitated the process. He was the biggest politician of those days. He will do this much and will want good credit. So he said, rename this place to my name. So Khandava Prastham became Indra Prastham. That region is the current day Delhi. I'm speaking on a momentous day. So Indraprastha. Now, while burning the forest that was infested with snakes, one of the sons of Takshaka had to fall. His name was Ashwasena. So the remaining snakes, they died. So this Ashwasena and Takshaka, they vowed that they shall kill Arjuna, who's the cause of their familial problem. Shakuni realizes this incident and he calls Takshaka on the day when Karna has to fight Arjuna and ties that snake around that astram and asks Karna to shoot this at Arjuna because there is a reason for his vendetta. Krishna, through his sources, realizes on the previous night that this is Shakuni's plan given to Karna. So he asks one pit of 1 foot to be dug below the chariot. And when that astra was about to come, he pushes the chariot down so that the snake that comes towards his face takes away his crown. So there was this burning vengeance in that Takshaka dynasty, which this son of the king utilizes, saying that if Arjuna has not been targeted, let Arjuna's grandson be targeted. So now this Takshaka was to kill. This rishi who realizes that the administrator of that particular province called as Parikshit was to be killed because of his son's curse, he calls his son and says, Apapeshu swabhrityeshu balena apakva buddhina papam kritam tad bhagavan sarvatma kshantumarhati. My dear son, apakva buddhina. Apakvam means not cooked. Which means you're not seasoned enough to deal with external people. Why did you have to utter the curse? Tiraskrita vipralabdhaha kshapta kshipta hata api nasya tat pratikurvanti tad bhakta prabhavopihi. Shouldn't a person who's engaged in austerities and tapasya be all the more tolerant? When you say you've been learning the Vedas, shouldn't you be more seasoned? Just because the king has done something like taking the dead snake, you should not have pronounced a curse. What have you done, my son? Learn. Life is full of surprises and shocks. If you're unable to withstand the cruelties of life, reading scriptures will serve you no purpose. There is no direct formula. If I read scriptures, only good things will happen. No. When you read scriptures, you will realize how to deal with situations when such things happen. Don't ever think by listening to Bhagavatam, if that has been the advertisement line, they are wrong. You listen to Bhagavatam and you see what's going to happen. Nothing will happen. See, Vedanta Jnanam will make you stronger to deal with situations. If you believe that ऐसे करने के बाद बहुत अच्छा हो जाएगा, कुछ नहीं होगा, then you're in the wrong place. Bhagavatam will make you strong, mentally strong. Every situation in life need not be the way you want it to go. If that was the situation, Adi Shankara, with a repository of knowledge, lived only till 32 years. Ramanuja, one of the greatest philosophers, had to flee a tyrant king called as Chola, Adhirajendra. Vedanta Deshika had to lie amongst the corpses so that the manuscripts will not be burnt by the invaders from Central Asia. People lived a very tough life. So Acharya's history we listen so that we understand if such great people have undergone such problems, who are we? We are primitive mortals after all. So the Rishi advised his son. Meanwhile, people went and conveyed. Times of Indraprastha, there was a newspaper that said, Parikshit 7 din mein mar jayenge. So Parikshit read that. What? I will die in 7 days. Then he went into the details of the report. Then he was in for a shock. He went and sat by the banks of river. There he sat on the banks of river Ganga, facing the north, his kusha grass, darbha grass facing the east. As he sat, a very, very, very handsome person came on his own accord. Tam dvayashtavarsham sukumara padam karorubahvassa kapola patram charvataya kshona narasutulya karna subhruvananam kambu sujata kantam. Beautiful conch-shaped neck. Face, the countenance that was akin to that of a resplendent moon that would shower only nectarine cool rays. Dvayashta varsham, dvaya ashta, 2 into 8, 16 years of age. Sukumara padam, very, very tender hands and feet. He came on his own. He was the very son of Vyasacharya called as Shuka Brahmam. Shuka in Sanskritam means parrot. See, when we see temple sculptures, we need to understand the art of appreciating Bharatiya architecture. In architecture, you always have to present the words and the characters as explained in the words. See, if you say Shuka Brahmam, he was a rishi, you have to give a face of a parrot. But essentially, he would not have had the face of a parrot. What Shuka does is to repeat. See, two birds of immense importance in Dharma. One is cuckoo, which is kokila pakshi, and second is Shuka. Shuka is parrot. We need to be both. In Shrimad Ramayanam, you come across the importance of a kokila, because Valmiki came on his own accord and composed Shrimad Ramayanam. So you see some originality there. Whereas Shuka was repeating what his father said. So a parrot repeats. That's why in English you say parroting. You repeat. So you need both. How many of you have been trained or are training or planning to train in Shastriya Sangeetam, classical music? So in Carnatic music, you come across two things. One, you have to repeat. Like for example, Varnam Kamala Jadala Vimala Sunayana Kari Varada Karu Nabode Karuna Charate Kamala Kanta. This is how you have to repeat. You're a parrot. In higher music, you'll have to sing on your own. That is Mano Dharma. That is Mano Dharma. So, cuckoo and parrot. Parrot repeats. That is why Dikshitar says, Mama Vashiva Panjara Shuki Pankaja Mukhi Guru Guharanjani Durita Bhanjani Niranjani Kanjadalla Yatakshi Kamakshi Kamala Manohari. So Ramayanam is told by Valmiki, who is a kokila, sings on his own. Bhagavatam is presented to us by Shuka Brahmam, who repeats, who is a parrot. While you eat traditional South Indian food. I'm just giving you a, don't think that I will not concentrate on North. Krishna Avataram is fully North. I will come northwards also to Dal Bati Churma. Now, for example, in a traditional South Indian food which is served on a plantain leaf, you first serve the sambar. In Tamil, it is called kolambu. The traditional word is kolambu. But when there was some political tension in the mid half of this millennium, last millennium, a group of Rajas from Shivaji's dynasty in Maharashtra came southwards. They fled south. So the prince of those days, to impress upon him, the cooks used to carry a certain mixture, powder. And they used to carry a certain ingredient from Maharashtra. Anybody from Maharashtra here? So you come across one ingredient called kokum. So they carried that kokum and that powder. They used to make this as a paste and used to serve the boy. His name was Sambhaji Maharaj. So they came all the way to Tanjore, which is in Tamil Nadu. When they came here, the kokum got over. They tried in Amazon, no stock. So they asked the local people, sir, give us something like kokum. They gave them tamarind. So with this tamarind and that powder, they made one concoction for Sambhaji Maharaj, who liked it. So it was called sambar. So the sambar, people started equating with kolambu. Kolambu in Tamil means confused. Kolambi irukuna, confused. So from confused state, you need to become a very, very seasoned, polished state. That is why after kolambu, you serve rasam, which is not confused. Right? So after rasam, you serve the sweet, which is the payasam. Payasam is kheer. Girvanair arthyamano dashamukha kosaleshvrishya shringe putriyam ishtimishtva dadushi dasharathaksma bhrite payasagryam, says Bhattatri. Payasam is where you use milk majorly and then you may or may not want to add rice. That is called kheer, payasam. After payasam, you serve curd rice. That is the order. Payasam is Ramayanam because Ramayanam begins with payasam. Bhagavatam has curd rice. In Dashamaskandam, Krishna consumes curd rice. Bibradvenum jatarapataya shungavetye chakakshe vame panau masrila kabalam tatphalam angulishu tishtan madhye swapadi suhrudo hasayan narmabhisvaihi swarge loke mishati bhubuje yajnabuk balakelihi, says Shuka Brahmam. On left hand, Krishna had curd rice ball. Right hand side, he had vegetable pickle. Masrila kabalam means curd rice ball. Tatphala means soaked vegetable, which is pickle. This is how he consumed. In Delhi, there is a place called Vasant Vihar. I gave lectures there. Anybody from Delhi here? So I gave lectures in English. They said, "Aap aaye, English mein boliye." So I started giving. When I said Krishna had curd rice, half of them left the premises. Then I called them, "Why? आप मद्रासी हो, इसलिए बोल रहे हो curd rice." See, I said, see, I have to tell what Shuka says. So it says masrila kabalam. क्यों वो चपाती नहीं खाए क्या, roti nahi खाए? I said, if he had chapati, Shuka would have mentioned. Do you mean to say wheat didn't exist? Wheat existed, because in Vedam you have chamakam. After Rudram you recite 4 anuvakams of Goduma chame. Goduma existed, but whether they made chapati out of it, we don't know. So what is the order? Payasam, curd rice. Payasam is Ramayanam, curd rice is Bhagavatam. Kokila is Ramayanam, Shuka is Bhagavatam. So this particular son of Vyasacharya called Shuka came on his own and he looked at Parikshit. Parikshit had a few burning questions in him. He asked those questions, to which Shuka replied. So every now and then he would ask and Shuka would reply. So this compendium of Parikshit's questions and Shuka's answers is compiled as Srimad Bhagavata Mahapuranam. So what does this essentially state? This so-called religion called Sanatana Dharma or Hinduism, because I'm saying so-called, because it was never meant to be a religion. It was meant to be a larger perspective, a civilization. So this Sanatana Dharma called Hinduism completely relies on questioning. It is the opposite of the worldview of religion. Only if you question, you can know better. If your children ask questions, encourage them, because this is a civilization. The DNA of Sanatana Dharma itself is to question. If Arjuna hadn't asked questions and Krishna hadn't replied, you wouldn't have Bhagavad Gita. If Janamejaya had not asked questions and Vaishampayana had not given answers, you wouldn't have Mahabharata. If Valmiki hadn't asked questions and Narada and Brahma hadn't had the courtesy to answer, you wouldn't have Ramayana. If Yaksha had not asked 124 questions towards the end of Aranyaka Parva and Yudhishthira had not answered, you wouldn't have Yaksha Prashnam. Had Dhritarashtra not asked questions and Vidura not answered, you wouldn't have Vidura Niti. Had Dhritarashtra not asked questions and Sanat Sujata not answered, you would never have Sanat Sujatiyam. Had Madhura Kavi Alvar not asked question and Nammalvar not answered, you wouldn't have Thiruvaimozhi. Every scripture that we revere, understand, internalize, contemplate and read in Sanatana Dharma is a result of questions and answers. But Krishna gives a caveat. Tadvidbhiv pranipatena pariprashnena sevaya upadekshanti te jnanam jnaninaha tattvadarshinaha. Arjuna, you're asking good questions. Ask. But that knowledge that you bequeath as a result of questioning shall last in you only when you do it with a good intent of knowing. See, you can always ask question to put the other person at place, right? To make sure that the other person looks a bit dullard and ignorant. Wait, I'll ask you a question. If that is your intent, you'll never learn. Because your intent is never to learn. It is always to seek vendetta, vengeance on the other person. So if your intent is to know, ask. But the person who asks should also be aware that he or she may not get an answer immediately. Just because you ask a question, answer my question now. If you don't have patience, you will never learn. Answer need not come that moment. It can come through your own experiences in your life. Later you'll realize, I asked this question while I was 17. Now I realize how. That answer can come through somebody else, need not be through the same person you've asked. Not every person whom we ask question to is Vasudeva Krishna. He's some normal person. So questioning is fine, but always do it with the intent to know more. And knowing is also about unlearning what you have learnt wrongly. See, we would have learned 10 things. Vikyacharya, Google a Guru, all this gives. Quora.com, all this HinduExchange.com, all this is there. We will learn something there and we will come. No, Quora says, who is Quora? Yaar Quora? Number is not Quora. Who edits Wikipedia? 10 such editors edit Wikipedia. Wikipedia says, Jagat Acharyan Mari. Wikipedia says. Same Wikipedia page can say some other thing if somebody has edited and it has been approved by their internal editor tomorrow. If we are not cognizant of that, then we are living in our own utopian la land. So, questioning should be done, but do it with that good intent. Shabari did not bite and give fruits. That is the truth. Every director, A.P. Nagarajan, everybody, you take any director, till Karan Johar, they will always show biting only. He has to run coffee. So they will bite and give. Kyun wo bite? Just because in their house they bite and give, it doesn't mean Shabari. नहीं, Shabari ने ऐसा किया था ना. Shabari, what is her name? What is her name? What did I say? Very good. Shabari is not her name. Shabari is a common name. See, like a mechanic, carpenter, plumber. Shabarajati naam Shabari. She belonged to the community of forest dwellers, so she was called Shabari. We don't even know her name. Her name is not Shabari. So many things. There was no line drawn. Lakshman Rekha, usse fire aa gaya. Kuch nahi aaya. Sita was kidnapped with one hand on the thigh, the other hand with her braid. He lifted and went. If I tell this, ऐसा बोला था क्या वाल्मीकि जी ने? हाँ. लेकिन रामानंद सागर और कुछ दिखाते हैं, उन्होंने मेरा प्रवचन नहीं सुना. मैं क्या कर सकता हूँ? All this is not there in. So unlearning itself is such a tough task. Given that he asked a series of questions and replies were given. That said, this is how that 7 days, you know why that 7 days came into picture? Because the curse was he has to finish all his questions and answers within 7 days. Why did he stop with 7? So that I can finish by 14th. 14th I will finish and go. Don't worry. Till that day only I will be troubling you. Now, what is the greatness of Bhagavatam? That is when there is one charitram which is said. Narada went around to different places in Bharatam. Had he had Lufthansa, he would have come here also. Because some of your children may ask, why should they just go around in India? Why can't they come to Stuttgart? He didn't. What can I do? Aham tu prithvi. See, questioning also, if it is going to serve your purpose, you should ask. Useless questions serves nobody's purpose. Aham tu prithivim yato. Narada says, I went to different places. Nyatva sarvottama amiti pushkaram cha prayagam cha. I went to a kshetram called Pushkar, which is in the state of Rajasthan. Prayagam cha. Everybody is going to Prayag now. Kumbh Mela. Kashim Godavarim tata. He went to Kashi. Important constituency. Godavarim tata. So he came all the way to Godavari. Harikshetram Kurukshetram Srirangam Setu Bandhanam Evamadishu Tirtheshu Brahmamana Itastataha. That is when he says that I went to different places and spots a lady. Very beautiful lady, but she is very tired with her 2 sons who have swooned. He asks, who are you, lady? You look very pretty. She says, my name is Bhakti. So this is an allegorical depiction of Bhakti. Now Bhakti means devotion. But in Kavyam, you always give life to emotions. This is called an allegorical drama. In the 10th century, we had a beautiful drama called Prabodha Chandrodayam by Krishna Mishra. In the 13th century, we had an allegorical drama called as Sankalpa Suryodayam by Vedanta Deshika, where characters like Kama, Krodha, Lobha, Moha are the characters. So So Bhakti is a lady. Now he asks, where were you born? Utpanna Dravide Saham. She says, I was born in the state of Dravida, which is Tamil Nadu. Utpanna Dravide Saham. I was born in the state of Tamil Nadu. Undoubtedly, the state of Tamil Nadu gave rise to a plethora of acharyas who were extremely devoted. Forget the family now. Utpanna Dravide Saham. The word Dravida itself is a Sanskrita word. Utpanna Dravide Saham. Then she said, after I was born in Dravida, where did you do your elementary school? Narada asks. Vriddhim Karnatake Gata. I went to Karnataka. Karneshu Atati iti Karnataka. How many of you are from Karnataka? Nice people. So, because I am from Bangalore. So, see, this state produces so many poets and kings of great valor. And there's only news of knowledge and victory that the mother listens to. So when she listens to such good news, it seems that the earrings that are attached to her ears also jingle and dance along. Since Karneshu, Karnam is ear, Atati means dances. Karneshu Atati, it is called Karnata. Then we add a pratyayam called as Karnataka. Vriddhim Karnatake Gata. Then from there she said, I did my high school in Maharashtra. Kvachit Kvachin Maharashtre. She went to Podar and Ruya. Then she went and settled. Gurjare Jeernatam Gata. I went and settled in Gujarat. This shlokam is there in Bhagavatam. So, such is the beautiful state of Bhagavatam where they say Shlokardham Shlokapadamba Shlokardham. Even if you listen to half a shloka, sir, why do you keep reciting shlokas? Just keep telling the story. The narration will do. That is not my style. I have to read from Shuka's Bhagavatam. Shlokardham, even if you listen to half of the shloka. What is Ardham? What is Ardhaha? Then how will you have in both genders? Ardham is Napumsakalingam. Ardhaha is Pullingam. How? Because in Sanskritam, if it is Ardham, it is slightly less than half. Ardhaha means slightly more than half. If it is 0.51, it is Ardhaha. If it is 0.49, it is Ardham. So, see, how much ever you try to cut the apple into two halves, if you measure them, it will not measure equally. So, they were extremely vigilant. So, that is why they use two words. Ardham, Ardhaha. See, even in while even when we introduce amongst in the society circle, we say, this is my better half. Are they equally weighing? So that time she is Ardhaha, I am Ardham. Better means that is what? So Shlokardham Shloka Padam Va. Padam means quarter. In Tamil Nadu, that's a different meaning. Shlokardham Shloka Padam Va. Pathed Bhagavatam Chayaha. Nityam Punyam Avapnoti Rajasuyashvamedhayoho. You will have the punyam of doing great Ashwamedha Yagyam or Rajasuya Yagyam, says this particular shloka. Now, as we transition from the circumstances that led to the birth of Bhagavata Mahapuranam and the greatness of Bhagavatam, there was this incident that Shuka Brahman deals with. He says that once Sanat Kumaras, they were the four sons of Brahma, Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, Sanat Kumara. Four of them, they went to Karya Vaikuntham. When they went to Karya Vaikuntham, they spotted two people guarding Vaikuntham. They were called Jaya and Vijaya. Be very careful. Jaya, Vijaya, wrong, because I told you that's Strilingam. Jaya, Vijaya. So these Jaya and Vijaya said, see, you all come under all passports category. You are not from this region. Dikhav passport. So they said, see, for us, we don't need any documentation. We can be undocumented. We have got permission to come. But there was an altercation. Jaya and Vijaya had new joinees. They were not aware of the rules. So they had an altercation with Sanat Kumaras. So Sanat Kumaras got angry and they pronounced a curse. They said, this arrogance in you should be curtailed, and I curse that you should be born on earth. These Jaya and Vijaya started crying because for them, birth, that too on earth, was such a big curse. For us, we celebrate. I have a son. Recently, I had a son, but they were worried. So, as this confusion was outside, slowly Bhagavan came with Mahalakshmi and Garuda, like Indian police. After the crime is over, they'll come. Tadvama manusyasya paramasya vikunta bhartu kartum prakrishtamih dhimahi mandadibhyam lokanito vajratananta bhava drishtya papiya sastriya ime vipavosya yatraha. So he came, and with the Lakshmi and Garuda, he came very cool, and he asked, "Kya hua?" That is when they said this person got this curse, Jaya and Vijaya. That is when they said, see, I have to honor the Sanat Kumaras, so take this curse upon you and you will be born. Jaya and Vijaya said, that means separation from you, Bhagavan. We'll have to do so many births. So, either you be born very many times, praising me, adoring my qualities, or I will give you option B. In 3 janmas, you have to keep on showing disgust on me, cursing me, and you can be born. You will be born in one of the Kalagams. You will keep cursing me, though their wives may not. So, tadetadajnaya bhavanavaptaha sahaiva lakshmya bahiram bhujaksha khageshwaram sarpita charu bahur anandayam sthana abhiramamurtya. So he said this is called Samrambha Yogam. When we deal with Narasimha Avataram on day 3, which is Monday, between 6:45 and 7, I'll explain the shloka. Go. Gopyaha kamat bhayat kamsaha dveshat chaidyo nayo nripaha sambandhat vishnaya snehad yuyam bhaktya vayam vibho. That time I'll give you an answer. So Bhagavan said you'll have to keep hurling curses at me, showing disgust, disdain on me, and then you can reach me. They said, take hai, emoticon. WhatsApp, you show this, right? So they said, okay, done. Meanwhile, there was this Kashyapa Prajapati. You remember? At about 7:10, I spoke today, Kashyapa Vihara, Kashmira. See, whenever you listen, you should always show that expression that you've heard. Na vayam prabhavastam tvam anukartum griheshwari apyayusha vakatsyena ye chanye gunagrinnanaha. So this lady, it says, Yeshamam Tvatkrite Vidvan Kamamatta Sharasanaha. This Kashyapa had many wives. See, when we deal with Puranas, many of these kings, rishis will be polygamous. They will have many rishis. Now you can ask a moral question. Isn't it wrong? Maybe wrong, but they didn't ask my opinion. What will I do? I would have asked them to be brahmacharis itself. That is a different thing, but they didn't ask. Now we'll have to see what is the moral for us to take. Let us not do moral policing on them. Kashyapa, he shouldn't have done that. See, for us, what is happening is we judge Rama based on our rules now. Why did he have to humiliate Shurpanakha? She, after all, expressed her love. He could have dealt it better. Yes, had we been of his consultants, we could have advised him that way. But Ramayanam is done and dusted, over. We have to understand what we can understand now. There's no use in harping and doing one big group discussion based on that. Why did he have to do that with Vali? This Devi Vishwakumar will not work here. Okay. So, Yeshamam Tvatkrite Vidvan Kamamattasharaasanaha Dunoti Dinam Vikramya Rambhamiva Matangajaha. One of the wives called Diti. There's another lady called Aditi. This is Diti. Diti went and said, Kamamattasharaasanaha. I've been tormented by Cupid. You show that, right? That heart, your arrow, that is all these emoticons. They have read Bhagavatam. If it is heartbroken, they will show one crack. or then they will get purely Vedic. There is this hand. Anjalim Paramamudra Kshipram Deva Prasadini. If you type thanks, automatically that will come. And that too, you can select that skin color also in that. Dhunoti Dinam Vikramya Rambha Mimavatangajaha. She said, I've been tormented by Cupid. Let us produce children. He said, see, this is a wrong time. You have come at the time which is Raudra Muhurtam. In this particular period in the evening, Rudra sits on Rishabha and goes towards the Smashana Bhumi. This time is not right. See, that evening time, whenever the sun sets, because I cannot say, as we go from northwards from Tropic of Cancer, the daytime will change. Most of these scriptures were written around the Tropic of Cancer. You have the 23-degree north, that is Tropic of Cancer, right? So you have all sun temples in that region. You see Dev, Konark is at about 19, then Modhera on 23, then you have Makkah and Medina around that same thing. Then you have got the temple of Ra in Luxor. Then you have got the pyramid of sun and the moon and the winged vehicle in the Chinzi of Mexico in that same region. Because because your earth is tilted as 23 and a half. As it rotates, it also wobbles. So when the rays come, the gradient will be the highest at the Tropic of Cancer. So it is very good for solar energy conservation. So there you will have that region in Gujarat is called Shauram. Shaura region. That is why it used to be called Shaurashtram. Shaura means sun. So Shauram, there is a ragam called Saurashtram. That is why for venerating Surya, Dikshitar uses the ragam Saurashtram. Surya Murte Namostute Sundara Chayadhipate. So you have this particular reference. She went and told Raudra Muhurtam. He said, no, let us not come together. Because, see, there are various factors that contribute to a person's nature. One is, of course, what you are educated, how your parents are, what is your environment, how are you being trained, what is your friends, how do they look like, the culture where you grow. All this matters. Purva Janma Karma. Two children born of the same parents will be different. Right? Twins born from the same mother, same time, they'll be different. So there is a Purva Janma Karma factor. Alongside, Shastram also says when the couple come together, that time of Garbhodakam is very important. So he said, no, if we produce children now, if the children are conceived during this period, then they will be antisocial elements. She said it's okay, even if they're antisocial, let them be born. Athapi kamametam te prajatyai karavanyalam yatha mamnati vochanti muhurtam pratipalaya yesha ghoratama vela ghoranam ghoradarshana charanti yasyam bhutani bhutesha nucharanihi. As a result of which, Diti Devi, eventually she became pregnant. She was told by Kamala Silvaraj that you will have twins. Immediately, she now got worried as a carrying mother. Oh, my husband said they will be antisocial elements. Kashyap ji, kuch to kijiye, kuch alter kar dijiye. So that is when he said, see, children will be antisocial, but we may have a grandchild who will be extremely devoted. He said, Savai Mahabhagavad, who is the grandson? Very good. Savai Mahabhagavato Mahatma Mahanubhavo Mahata Mahishta Pravriddha Bhaktya Hyanubhavita Shaye Niveshya Vaikunthamimam Vihasyati. So she was pregnant, she delivered two sons, Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu. Hiranya in Sanskritam means gold. There are various synonyms to it. Hema, Kanaka, Hataka. Hataka is a word that comes in Shrimad Bhagavatam later. It is said that when Shiva and Parvati come together in the Himalayas, three regions below, we have crust, mantle and core, right? A few feet in the crust is only when you mine, you get gold. So Bhagavatam says that there's an element called Hatakam. In Mendeleev's periodic table, it is AU, aurum, right? So this aurum is Kanaka. Suvarna, Swarna. These are all words. That is why Sri Suktam, which is a Kilabhagam of Rigvedam, says about Mahalakshmi. Hiranya Varnam, Harinim, Suvarna Rajatasrajam. Same line has two golds. Hiranya Varnam, Harinim, Suvarna Rajatasrajam. Rajatam is silver. So gold is Suvarnam. The other word for silver is Durvarnam. Remember this in Amarakosham. Durvarneti Rajata Shabdam. Rajata means Durvarnam, bad color. Why? Because if you keep silver in coastal areas, it will turn dark. Gold will never turn dark. So Durvarnam. So Suvarna, Durvarna. Hataka. Hataka means gold. So in those days, people used to be duped by showing gold as brass, pittal, as gold. Pittala Hatakam is Pittalatam. We say in Tamil, right? Pittalatam. So Hatakam is gold, Kanaka is gold, Hema is gold, Swarna is gold, Hiranya is gold. So when I say Hiranyakashipu, we say body of gold. That means in financial crisis, you cannot go pawn him. What it essentially means is his skin color was largely yellow, gold-like. Skin colors are there, right? Just that no color is superior or inferior. But we have skin colors. Skin colors is a reality. Superior or inferior is wrong. So generally the civilization in and around China Desham is called yellow. The river itself is called Yellow River. So yellow. Was China known to us? Yes. 1800 years back, Kalidasa in Kumara Sambhavam, while describing the flags that were fluttering high in the Himalayas, he says, how soft and fluttering were they? Chinam Shukaihi, like the silk of China, he mentions. So Chinam is mentioned in Udyoga Parva of Mahabharatam by Vyasa, which were the armies that came and fought alongside the Kauravas. Chinam. Vyasacharya mentions China. So one section of army which came and fought for the Kauravas and earlier with Jarasandha coalition, Magadha Desham, Bihar was Yavana. Yavana means Greek. So, or Yavadvipam in Srimad Ramayanam, when Sugriva sends the Vanaras in search of Sita, he sends a group of people eastwards. He says Yavadvipanam, Yaja replaceable. Yava is Java, the archipelago nation of Indonesia. Then he refers to one place and says, in this place, when it is morning, the other island will be in afternoon. That will be Fiji. Because there's a 6-hour difference. So, it is an art to decipher the shlokas. Here, he says, Hiranyakashipu, gold-like, yellow-like. So, Hiranyakashipu is the other name for Kanakakashipu, because Hiranya is Kanaka, right? So Kanakakashipu. Who's Kanakakashipu's son? Prahlada. That is why Tyagaraja lists the devotees. Parama Bhagavata Mauni Varashashi Vivakara Sanaka Sanandana Disha Surakim Purusha Kanakakashipu Sutanarada Tumburu Pavana Sunu Bala Chandra Dhara Shuka Saroja Babu Suravarulu Parama Pavanulu Ghanulu Shashpatulu Kamala Baba Sukamusadanu Baba Mugakayandato Bhavulu. So here Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha were there. Both these boys were antisocial from birth. From their childhood, they were troublesome. So this Hiranyaksha, he troubled Mother Earth. Traditionally, what we will be told, he troubled Mother Earth. He lifted Mother Earth and placed her in the oceanic waters. Correct? There's a problem here. Even if there is a tilt of 0.025 degree to Earth, there will be problem with our weather. You take Mother Earth out of her axis and go and place her. First, where are those oceans? No, sir, that is a different, some other galaxy. Then what happened to Hiranyakashipu? You would be dead. If Hiranyaksha takes this, first of all, Hiranyaksha should be at least twice the height to lift Earth. Being on Earth, he cannot lift Earth. He has to come out of Earth, come out of the atmosphere angle, then cross ozone, and then take Earth and place her elsewhere. Then people there will die. If he places earth within the oceanic waters, then he has to take the waters from all the oceans that we know. Saptarnavi yadi sametya mashi bhavitri. Atlantic, South China, even if Jeeping likes or not, we have to take waters from South China, Arctic Ocean, Antarctica, all the 5 lakes, Superior, all these lakes, put that in a jar, borosil jar, and put earth there. Then what is the way to understand? See, be very vigilant of this. In Laukika Bhasha, in general usage, we offer the object's name to the person who carries it. First example, let's take. If you have grown up in Bharatadesham, you will know that vegetables are sold on the street. ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಅವರಿದ್ರೆ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗತ್ತೆ. ಬೆಂಗಳೂರಿಂದ ಯಾರಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಇಲ್ಲಿ? ತುಂಬಾ ಜನ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ನಮ್ಮೂರು. ಸೊ ಬೆಳಗ್ಗೆ ಬರುವಾಗ in the early morning they will sell brinjal, okay, or they may sell potato, alugade be calling. He'll be pushing that cart. You want to buy that alugade, alu, how will you call him? Alugade. You won't know his name. His name could be Ramaya, Gundappa, something appa, but you won't know his name. Alugade, he will come. So whatever he sells, that object's name will become his name. Similarly, suppose, I don't know the norm here in Frankfurt. In Bharatadesham, you can live in 2 types of houses. One is an apartment. Many houses will be constructed. You will have to buy one apartment and live. It could be 49th floor, 50th floor, whichever floor. Or you live in an independent house. Imagine you are going to construct an independent house in Bharatadesham. There is no place, don't do. In case you want to, hypothetical scenario, you want to construct, what will you do? Buy what? House itself, land. After buying that land, what will you do? Design. Next is design. After design, construction. Very good. So what do you do before construction? Foundation. Before foundation, what will you do? Bhumi puja. Correct? You're doing bhumi puja. Are you doing puja to the entire bhumi or the 30 by 40 land? Small piece of land only you're doing, but you're not calling it 30-40 puja. You're calling it bhumi puja. Even if you do it to a small piece of land, you're calling it bhumi puja. So even if one small part of earth was affected because of his misdeeds, we generally say bhumi was affected. So he belonged to the Kashmir Pradesham. A large section of the perennial rivers of this world originate in the Kashmir Valley because it has Hima. Hima means snow. Himalayam, so snow-laden peaks, right? So they will generally have glaciers and they will give rise. Even if there is a small change, climatic change in that region, it can drown the habitats around the river regions. So regions which were around the region of Ganga, Yamuna, Saraswati, they were affected and people's houses were drowned. Today we face that crisis in most of the urban cities. When it is raining, water starts coming inside the house, right? So when such regions were affected, that is when they all went and complained to Swayambhuva Manu. Swayambhuva Manu, Manu was the leader of mankind. He went and told Brahma ji, ye kya ho raha hai Brahma ji? So many regions of Mother Earth is affected because of this Hiranyaksha. Give me a solution. Kashtam prajaha srujati mayyava nirmimagna sthanam saroja bhava kalpayat tat prajanam ityevamesha katito manuna swayambhu amboruhaksham tava pada yugam vyachintim. Brahma started worrying together. If you complain to Brahma, Brahma will worry along with you. Brahma started worrying. Kya kare? That time from Brahma's nostril, he breathed in and breathed out. One small wild boar jumped from his nose. That was very shocking for him. What will news reporters say? Brahma breathed in and breathed out. A swine jumped. They'll say, okay. Ityabhidhyato nasa Varaha Sahasanagha Varaha Toko Niragat Angushta Parimanakaha. Small wild boar jumped. Brahma felt, who is this wild boar? A wild boar, Vara, tum kaun ho? Batao. This wild boar held its limbs like this and turned towards Brahma. Brahma zoomed. He saw the eyes. Mahavaraha Sphuta Padmalochanaha. The eyes were akin to the petals of a newly blossomed lotus. Then he knew it is Narayan. Hello, sir. ये आपका अवतार है क्या? Yes, this is my avatar 1.0. Right, many avatarams will come. So Varaha Avataram happened. Vyomati Langhini Vibho Pralayamburashau Veshantalesha Iva Matum Ashakya Murtehe Sadhya Samudra Vasane Sarasair Akarishihi Ananda Sagaram Apara Apangapataihi. So this is the first avataram that we are witnessing in Shrimad Bhagavatam. So Varaha took this form, Jitam Jitam Te Jita Yajna Bhavayan Trayim Tanum Swam Paridhunvate Namaha Yadro Magarteshu Nikhila Nililyayur Dvarastasmaihi Namaha Karana Sukaraya Te Karana Sukaraya He Sukara. He was born. Now this Varaha, he went in search of those parts of Mother Earth, his Dharmapatni who was tormented. This is where we need to understand Sanatana Dharma's perspective. Those of them who become direct or indirect causes of affecting Mother Nature and Earth will not be tolerated. Today we call it different names: global climate change, pollution, and all of that. If you end up cursing your own nature, one form or the other, Bhagavan will do tapam. Tapam means fever. That is why we have earthquake, floods. These are all the ways that nature gives it back to us. So here Varaha went in search of his Dharmapatni, those places where Bhuma Devi got submerged. Meanwhile, Hiranyaksha said, I have taken so much of efforts to trouble earth. How dare this Varaha is going around, and they had a fight. See, these fight situations and all, I will not describe in detail. It is not going to serve our purpose. Half an hour, some speakers will talk. Varaha came, he lifted the mace. And you see, all this is not important for us. For us, Upadesham is more important. This is not some sequence scene that I'm telling you, thriller sequence, how they fought. At the end of the day, Hiranyaksha was killed. Now comes the question as to Panchabhutas that we have. We have 5 elements that we worship in Sanatana Dharma. Akashad Vayuhu. Vayor Agnihi. Agner Apaha. Adbhyav Prithvi. Prithivyam Oshadhayaha. Says Taittiriya Upanishad. Akashad Vayuhu. What is Akash? Space. What is space? What is Akash? Akash kya hai? Emptiness. Next. Ether. Where is ether? Where is ether? Where is Akasham? Up. No. Sky is not Akasham. This is all Akasham. Wherever there is space, that is Akasham. Akasham is pervaded by air. Akashad Vayuhu. Vayor Agnihi. Then comes Agni. Agner Apaha. Water. Adbhyav Prithvi. Then comes the last of the 5 elements, Prithvi, earth. Akasham is space. Space is USP called Tanmatra. It is not tough, but you have to pay attention. That is all. Akasham's Tanmatra is Shabdam, sound. From Akasham comes Vayu. Vayu's Tanmatra is Sparsham. You can feel. Right? Now when I come if I had to come in the month of June or July, it will be very hot. So in Bharatadesham, we have fan. That when that fan touches you, you feel so good because you feel air. Vayor Agni. Agni is, you can see the form. You can see, this is Agni. You can see form, which is Drishti, Rupam. Then from fire comes apaha. Apaha is water. Water is taste. Anybody from Coimbatore here? Coimbatore is famous for, once upon a time, it used to be a flowing river. Siruvani, very tasty water. People from Coimbatore will carry Siruvani water everywhere. They will not drink. What is the river I saw here? Land. They won't drink mine. They will, wherever they go, Coimbatore people will carry Siruvani. So water has ruchi, taste. Finally comes Prithvi. Prithvi's tanmatra is gandham, smell. You know, when the rain waters touch earth, you get a certain smell. Bharati Raja calls it manvasanai. But there is an English word. What is it? Petricora. Petrichora cora. Petrichor. I don't know, because if British English is petrichor, surely American English will be petrichor. Something. There'll be a difference. Because I have to give lectures everywhere. When I used to go to the US and used to say route. No, it's a route. Route. So I have to keep on changing. Route. Okay. If it is fast here, they'll be fast. So I don't know why. So Akashad Vayuhu Vayor Agnihi Agneraapaha Adbhyav Prithvi. Akasham's tanmatra is Shabdam, sound. Vayu, Sparsham, feel. Agni, Rupam, form. Then comes Apaha, water. Ruchi, Prithvi, Gandham. So Akasha's Shabdam, how do you perceive? Yes. Iri Karnam. In Tamil it is Kadu. But in Telugu, Kadu means different. Idi Kadu, Kadu. తెలుగు భాషలో కాదు అంటే మాకు వద్దు వద్దు కదా, అది వద్దు అంటే మీరు చెప్తున్న శబ్దం కాదు. బట్ ఇన్ తమిళ్ కాదు మీన్స్ ఇయర్. నౌ లెట్స్ కమ్ బ్యాక్ టు సంస్కృతం. నో ప్రాబ్లం. కర్ణం. సో ఫర్ ఆకాశం ద తన్మాత్ర ఇస్ శబ్దం. శబ్దం యు పర్సీవ్ త్రూ కర్ణం. ఆకాశాద్ వాయు, వాయుస్ తన్మాత్ర ఇస్ స్పర్శం. సో యు హ్యావ్ త్వచ, స్కిన్. Vayor Agnihi. Agni is Rupam. Rupam you perceive through eyes, Netram. Next you have Apaha, water. Ruchi. Ruchi through Jihwa. Correct? Jihwa. So how do you write Jihwa? How do you write? Ji in Devanagari. Then Ish Va. Jihwa. Right. First Ha will come. Then you will write Va. So Jihwa. How will you write Brahmam? Ba, one line, Bra, then Ha, then Ma, Brahma. You write, right? But do you say it as Brahma or Brahma? Why? See, if you have to pronounce it the way you write, shouldn't it be Brahma, Brahmana? That's how you write Devanagari, right? Because there is a rule of Panini. Panini in Sanskritam grammar says that when you take the last sounds, more than Bhagavatam, extra information only you give. That is my USP. Okay. In Sanskrita Devanagari Shabdam, what do you come across? Ka, kha, ga, gha, nga. Cha, cha, ja, ja, nya. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. Ta, tha, da, dha, na. So the last sounds are nga, nya, na, na. These are the sounds. Now you have ya, ra, la, va, sha, sha, sa, ha. Ha. You got ha there, right? So this pa, pa, ba, ba, ma, that ma and ha, when they come together, Panini says, see where the sound comes from. If it is coming from the epiglottis, Brahma, then it is straining your throat and it is not sounding well. That time, reverse the sounds, he says. So put ma sound first and ha. That time it will not come from the epiglottis, it will come from your nabi, Brahma. Ma and ha comes, right? So he says this is an exception to the general rule, because there was one great mathematician called L'Hopital. In differential calculus, we have that exception. When limit x tends to 0 and sin x by x Sine 0 by 0 is 0 by 0 indeterminate. That time he says use the L'Hopital rule where sin x is cos x and x is 1. So cos 0 will become 1. So there's an exception to the general rule. Similarly, Brahma, though it is written as ich and ma, you have to reverse the sounds. So jihwa is for the taste. Finally comes Prithvi. What is USP of Prithvi? Smell. Gandhavati Prithvi. How do you smell? Nose. Nasika. Right? I'll tell you one thing about Nasika. This is nose. Not good nose, okay nose. Okay. This is nose. There was this widowed sister to Ravana called as Shurpa Nakha. Nakha means nail. Shurpa means winnowing fan. See, when you separate the grain from the husk, you do an agricultural process. I'm sure it's automated today. Traditionally, it was called winnowing. So you let the grain fall. The husk will go, since it takes a parabolic motion, the husk which is light will go away from the grain and grain will fall on the ground. So you use a certain fan, a dish called as the shurpa. Shurpa means winnowing fan. So if the winnowing fan will always be wide sidewards, nails have to grow straight. But this lady had a genetic problem where it will grow in the sides. That is present in certain cultures where it will grow in the sides. That time, once in 3 months, they have to get their nails extracted. So she was called Shurpa Nakha. Nakha, that is like the Shurpa. So she came to Maharashtra to a place called Panchavati by the banks of river Goda. Godavari is Goda. She came and expressed her love to Rama. Rama said, see, in this avatar, ma'am, I'll marry only once. He was very clear. Had she proposed in Krishna avataram, we would have had one sargam in Bhagavatam for Shurpanaka also. Shurpanako vaja. So she would have said, Shuttva gunan bhuvana sundara shinvatante. No, thank God she came and told in Rama avataram. Then Rama tried to convince her that he is married only once. She was not ready to accept. Then he directed her towards the brother. Brother was washing, doing the dishes. Then finally her nose was cut. Then she went and complained to her half brothers called Karadushan and Trishiras in a place called Janasthana, current day Nagpur. She went and complained. Now there is a technical question. If her nose is chopped, how could she communicate well? See, most languages will have a nasal twang. ഞാൻ പറയുന്നത് ശരിയല്ലേ? ഒരുപാട് nose ആയിട്ട് വരണം അല്ലേ? So that nose, that how do you say nose without using your nose? Try saying that. It's very tough. Now she had to go and complain. How could she complain without using her nose? Any language. See, it uses, her nose is chopped. So 450 years back in the state of Kerala, a great poet called Narayana Bhattatri wrote one small work of 6 verses called Nir Anunasika. It's called Shurpanaka Pralapam, where she went and lamented 6 verses. None of the verses will use letters from the nose. Nir Anunasika. Ha ha Rakshasa Rajendra Paribhava Dushkarma Karat. It will always come from the mouth. It will not use the sound. Now, Prithvi, 5th of the element, what is the Tanmatra? Gandhavati Prithvi, says Vedam. Smell. How do you smell? Nose. Who suffered at the hands of Hiranyaksha? Mother Earth. What is Earth's property? Smell. So Varaha jumped from the nose. Can you see the connection? The solution to Earth's problem came from the nose. So Varaha was born. Mangalalaya bhogi nuta padam. So in Varaha Puranam, we have 2 charma shlokas. Sthite manasi susvasthe sharire satiyo naraha dhatu samye sthite smarta vishwarupam chamamajam tatastham riyamanam tu kashtapashana sannibham aham smarami madbhaktam nayami paramam gatim, says Varaha Purana. Meanwhile, Swayambhuva Manu, you remember? 17.5 minutes back I spoke about Swayambhuva Manu. He went and complained to Brahma. The Swayambhuva Manu had a wife called Shatarupa. They had 3 daughters and 2 sons. 2 sons were Uttanapada and Priyavrata. Tomorrow between 6:45 and 7:30, one of the sons' Charitram I'll deal, Uttanapada, because Dhruva Charitram will come tomorrow. So Priyavrata will also come tomorrow because we have to deal with Rishabhanatha. Rishabhanatha was first of the Tirthankaras of Jaina Matam. Jaina is Jainism. So the Swayambhuva Manu had 3 daughters, Akuti, Prasuti and Devahuti. All rhyming names he gave. Nirikshitastasya yathavasesha siddheshwara bhishtuta siddhamargaha akarnayan patra rathendra pakshair ucharitam stoma mudirna sama. Kardama Prajapati was a great rishi. See, I told you at the start itself, there are too many charitras within Bhagavatam. It is not one straight story. So Kardama Prajapati, he was initiating tapasya, tapaha, alochane dhatu towards Brahma. That is when Parabrahmam appeared. Parabrahmam, Brahma is different from Brahmam. We say Gurur Brahma, Gurur Vishnu, Gurur Devo Maheshwara, Guru Sakshat. Generally, it is correct to say Param Brahma, not Parabrahma. Parabrahma is not correct generally. Traditionally, it is Param Brahma, Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So this Brahman, Narayana, appeared on Garuda. See, Garuda in Agama Shastram is believed to be the quintessence of Vedic sound. Garudan, Uruvam, Marayin, Purulam, Kannan, Karigirimel Nindru, Anaithum Kakindrane, in those temples that follow Agama Shastra. Because traditionally we have been having rules that govern a temple maintenance. They are called Agama. That is why Agama related temples will not allow any devotee to touch the Murti. You cannot bring sweet from some sweet stall and place it before Bhagavan. It has to be cooked in a certain way. It has to be placed in a certain way. This is what Agama Shastram says. So in this particular format, we come across Bhagavan who comes over Garuda. Garuda is treated as the quintessence of Vedic sounds. Netram Gayatramuche, says Vedam. Taitriya Brahmana says that the eyes of Garuda are akin to Gayatri mantra. Who is Gayatri? Matu Mami sir. Gayatri Mami. Inga Vesmamalan Vadam Bodra. Mami. Gayatri Mami makes frayams. Who is Gayatri? Gayatrim Chandasam Mata. She is the meter. In English, we come across sonnet, right? 14-line poem. In Japanese, you have haiku. Similarly, in Sanskrita shlokas, if the shloka has 24 letters, it is called Gayatri. If it has 32 letters, it is called Anushtup. Anushtup Chandaha. So you'll have 32 letters, 4 padams, 8 into 4, 32. You cut 1 quarter, 24 letters, Gayatri. Gayatrim Chandasam Mata. Who is a Gayatri, you know? How does a Gayatri mantram begin? Wrong. Stand up on the bench. See that Pranavam and Bhurbhuvaha is the Vyavriti. It is the introduction. It is not the mantra. The mantra begins with Tatsaviturva. Tat is where it begins. So that is the first letter, Ta. That Bhurbhuvaha and that Pranavam is the Vyavriti. It's an introduction, prologue, preface, foreword. It is not the original work. So Gayatri is there for every Devata. The famous Gayatri is Surya Gayatri. We look at the sun and recite, right? That is Surya Gayatri, which is called Gayatri in general. Every Mahadevvecha Vidmahe Vishnu Patni Cha Dhimahe Tanno Lakshmi Prachodaya. That is Lakshmi Gayatri. Narayanaya Vidmahe is Vishnu Gayatri. So we have Gayatri mantra. Now this Gayatri is found in the eyes of Garuda. That is why Gayatri mantram Gayantam Trayate iti Gayatri. You should never recite Gayatri mantram in the open. You should not have that as a ringtone. Na 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 na. Ra na 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 na. First of all, this is not the tune. Because the Rishi has put one certain tune. It has got See, I'm telling you all this because if we know certain things are wrong, we can avoid. If people don't know they are doing it, it's okay. But there is a rule. You should never recite Gayatri in the public. Without Upadesham, you should not recite. It should not be sung in your own fashion. A.R. Rahman or Anirudh cannot put tune for that. Right? A.R. Rahman has made tune for Mangalyam Tandunanena. Have you seen that? Mangalyam Tandunanena Mama Jeevana Hetuna Kanthe Badnami Shubhage. Because that mantra is not found in the Vedas. This particular Mangalyam Tandunanena, traditionally Mangalya Dharanam was not a part of Vedic culture. Later it was adopted. Now, all these mantras are found in Garuda. So Garuda is sensed through mantras. That is why in any temple consecration, towards the end, when the temple is consecrated, you will see Garuda hovering around that place because it can sense Vedic sounds. That is why Shuka Brahmam says, Patra Rathendra Pakshair Ucharitam Stomam Udirna Sama. When the flapping of Garuda's wings happened, Kardama could listen to Samavedam, it seems. Stomam Udirna Sama. So, that time Bhagavan appeared and said, Kardama, very soon you will see one person called Swayambhuva Manu who will come and say, marry my daughter, say yes to that immediately. Simple message. Now Swayambhuva Manu came. Samanuhu Shatarupaya Mahishya Gunavatya Sutaya Cha Devahutya Bhavadirita Naradopadishtaha Samagat Kardama Magati Pratiksham. Kardama married Swayambhuva Manu's daughter called Devahuti. I said there are 3 daughters, Akuti, Prasuti, Devahuti. Devahuti married Kardama. They had 9 daughters. Small family. Now these 9 daughters were married. Now Devahuti said, Beti bachao, beti padao to ho hi gaya. Mujhe beta chahiye. I want beta now. So that is when they prayed to Bhagavan, and Bhagavan took the second avataram of Kapila Avataram, Kapila Vasudeva Avataram. Now, in Avataras, please understand the basic thing. There are certain Avataras called Purnavatara. Bhagavan himself is born. Paramatma chooses to be born. There are certain Avataras called Apurnavataram or Shakti Aveshya Avataram, where one of the qualities will be present in that avatar. I will read out the verse. Swami, Ore or Harati Kapilarku. Jnana Vijnana Yogena Karmana Muddharan Jataha Hiranyakeshaha Padmakshaha Padmamudra Padam Bujaha Yeshamana Vite Garbham Pravishtaha Kaitabhadanaha Avidya Samshaya Granthim Chitva Mam Vicharishyati Ayam Siddhaganadishaha Sankhyacharyai Susammataha Loke Kapila Ityakhyam Ganta Te Kirti Vardhanaha. So this boy who was born was called as Kapila. No, though he was not good at cricket. This Kapil was born. That is why in Sahasranamam we have Maharishi Kapilacharyaha Kritagyaha Medhini Patihi. This Kapila Vasudeva was born 2.0. Now, certain avataras are Aveshya Avataram, where Bhagavan chooses a Jivatma like us and injects one of his very many qualities. While Bhagavan happens to be the repository of all auspicious attributes, one of those attributes will be injected in a Jivatma so that that person will look slightly different from others, more powerful, but he will be overpowered by a Purna Avatara. Let's take Rama Avataram. Parshurama was the son. See what? He was the son of a rishi called Jamadagni. Jamadagni lived around the region of Maheshwar, current day Maheshwar, earlier Mahishmati in Madhya Pradesh. So they all lived during the times of a king called as Kartavirya Arjuna, which was the Haihaya dynasty. So this Jamadagni's son was called Rama. Since he came in the Bhrugukulam, he was called Bhargava Rama. And later he was blessed with a Ayudham called Parashu, axe. So he was associated with Parashu, so he became Parashurama. Original name was not Parashurama, just Rama. He was soda bottle Segar. Blade Kabali. Abdina blade odiyava Kabali parandar. So he was, later he got Parashu, so he became Parashurama. Original name was only Rama. He was J. Ram. Dasharatha's son Rama was D. Ram. We have N. Ram. What to do? So we have this Parashurama was very, very angry. Krodhagnim Jamadagni Pidana Bhavam Dush. Very angry. This Aveshya Avataram or Apurna Avataram, who was infested with unfounded, unabated anger, was vanquished by Rama. Kratuhara Shikhari Kantuka Vihrutyunmuka Jagati Runtuta Jitahari Danti Danta Danturonta Dashavadana Damana Kushala Dashashata Bhuja Muka Nripati Kula Rudira Jwara Bharita Prututarata Toka Tarpita Pitrika Bhrugupati Sugati Vihati Kara Nata Parudishu Parigha, says Vedanta Deshika. So Parashurama was vanquished by a Purna Avatara called Rama. Balarama, who's an Apurna Avatara's decisions will always be overturned by Krishna, a Purna Avataram. Similarly, one Aveshya Avataram is Kapila Avatara. Kapila is believed to be the Acharya of a system called Sankhyam. So I'll just give you one simple understanding of the Sankhya system, if you've heard of it. So we have Prakriti, Mahat, Ahankaram, is the process with which the Srishti begins. Then you have Panchabhutas, Akashad, Vayu, Vayu, Agni, Agni, Rapaha, Adya, Prithvi. You've got Panchatanmatras, Shabdam, Sparsham, Rupam, Ruchi, Gandham. Over. Next we have Pancha Jnanendriyas. Why are these Jnanendriyas? Because first, let's say Masal Vada. You heard of Masal Vada? So now, how will you know it's Masal Vada? By seeing itself. See, you're right. At times, masal vadas don't smell. And Sumara vada panna apdi. That's why you should watch Yogambat. So, now, how will it... See, the thing is, it's a very intelligent process. Now, imagine you're 2 years. Your mother makes masal vada. That time, your father will say, masal vada. So, your memory goes into associating that smell with that name. See, phonetics and Spotavadam is very related. Masal vada, you will see that shape, it gets registered in your mind with that smell. So a year later when she does masal vada, your father doesn't have to remind you. You will say by smelling that this is masal vada. So there is a jnanam which is involved, right? You associate. That's how... When that doesn't happen for some short period of time is where we refer to a certain condition called dyslexia. Dyslexic is where when that association doesn't happen immediately. It can go away. But eventually, these are all the associations. How do you perceive? So there is a jnanam aspect involved. So the eyes, the nose, the ears, the tongue, the skin, they all are jnanendriyas. That is why when you go to a coma state, though you are living, your pancha jnanendriyas may not be operative in nature. May not operate because that association doesn't happen. Let's take Parkinson's, where there is a bradykinesia and akinesia that happens with fraternation. That time, your brain doesn't tell the locomotive organ to walk. You have to take 2-3 steps to tell, keep that foot forward. It is not automatic. So, jnanendriyas are 5. Then you have karmendriyas. See, let's say they have made masal vada. How will you eat? Masal vada appadina ulla poidume. You have to walk, use your hands to take it, and then use your mouth. Now chew it and then send it in. So there is a karma which is involved. So your legs, your hands, your face, which is essentially your mouth region, and your excretory and reproductive organs. Malajalam, because when there is an input, there will be an output. So these are all called karmendriyas. So pancha karmendriya, pancha jnanendriya, pancha bhuta, pancha tanmatra, prakriti, mahat, ahankaram, manas. Together, these 24 things together is called prakriti. The 25th, where the jivatma resides within that shariram, is called purusha. So prakriti and purusha make the Sankhya system. So this system was professed and taken forward by Kapilacharya. When after giving birth to him, his mother, Devahuti finally thought, I should gain some knowledge, quintessential knowledge. She went and asked her husband Kardama, mujhe kuch bataiye, main bhi thoda acha sunna chahti hu. That time the husband said, acha sunne ke liye, why do you come to me? You have produced your son who is an Aveshya avatar of Bhagavan, go and ask him. Mera beta, yes, even though he's your son, he's intelligent, you go and ask him. That is when she put forth questions to Kapila, asking what is the state of the Jivatma, how does the body come into existence. That is when he says, when Garbhodakam happens, Mata, one of those motile sperms goes and fertilizes the egg, the ovum. These are all mentioned. If you want a free course on embryology, go through the skandam of Shrimad Bhagavatam. Then if it is fertilized, in case it gets fertilized, it will be the size of a bubble in the first 5 nights. In the end of 10 days, it becomes the size of a plum. Then it becomes a flesh ball. Towards the end of 1 month, the head is formed. Then at the end of 2 months, the hands, the feet and the limbs are formed. 3 months, nails and hair is produced. At the end of 4 months, flesh and blood circulation happens. 5th month, hunger and thirst is known to the child. 6th month, in the amnion, you see a slight movement of the child. And towards the 7th and 8th month is where the child can sense sound, audio. That is why you do a certain ritual called as Seemanton Nayanam or Pumsavanam. So the protruding structure of a porcupine, in Tamil we call it as Mullam Pandri. It was one of those 5 elements that Kshatriyas could eat. In those days, 5 nailed 5 animals' flesh Kshatriyas could eat. Iguana, hare, tortoise, porcupine and rhino. These were the 5 meats that were allowed. This sentence is mentioned in Kishkindha Kandam, Pancha Panchanakaha Bhakshya. So while they eat the flesh of porcupine, they will take the needles and keep them carefully. In the 7th and 8th month ritual of the lady who is pregnant, for the first time her hair is parted. Instead of combing this way, you have to part the hair this way. Parting of hair is called Seemantam. Seemantam means you part. So this parting is done. So that time the veena is played, because the only instrument Shastram believes a fetus can recognize is veena. So the veena is played. So this, that is why in Srimad Narayaniyam, we will deal on day 3. When Kayadhu, Hiranyakashipu's wife, is pregnant and she is being nurtured and nourished in Narada's ashramam, Narada plays the veena. That is why Bhattatri says, Muner veena paner adhigata bhavat bhakti mahima. So veena is played. Now when veena is played, we recognize that Seemanton Nayanam is very important. So 7th, 8th month. Then in the 9th month, the child has to come out. We have give a 3 trimesters period, 40 weeks. When the child comes out, that is where the external air tries to ruin the child's memory, because we believe in Sanatana Dharma Shastram that within the mother's garbham we have Purna Brahma Jnanam. That is why our posture itself will be as if we are doing Anjali Mudra. We can see Brahmam. Jayamanam hi purusham yampashen madhusudanaha satvikaha satuvigneyaha savai mokshartha chintakaha is Purana Vachanam. But when the child is born, first of all, when we come out, feet doesn't come out first, head comes out first. So when the external air that comprises 78% nitrogen, 20.02% oxygen, as per Shastram, it comprises of an element called as Shatam. Shatha in Sanskritam means that element in the air which, when touches the scalp of a newly born child, gives memory loss. That is why the child with Purna Brahma Jnanam, when it is touched by Shatha, forgets. When the child forgets something as important as Brahman, the child is unable to express its disappointment. So it starts crying. This is what Shastram says, and we are very happy. बच्चा रो गया, हमारे साथ आ जाओ बेटा, तुम भी हमारे जैसे बन गए हो, भूल चुके हो ना सभी, आ जाओ, डिस्ट्रीब्यूट करो A to B sweets. So now this Shatha Vayu is found and the child is born. Then through the karma, the child grows up, and eventually if the child chooses the path of Bhakti or Sharanagati, at the end of the day, the child's karmic cycle will be cut. See, karma is very vicious. It's a cycle. Avidya, Vasana, Karma, Ruchi, Prakriti, Sambandham is a cycle. They say that we are suffering because of our karma. Past janma, some karma we must have done, we are suffering now. But as we suffer, we do karma. So there is always incessant flow of karma. How will we cut this? It's a cycle. See, now when we were born, we studied, I don't know how many of you have studied here or Bharatadesham. While I studied, we used to have this twinkle, twinkle. You've heard of that? Then that when that version, that sheep will give that wool, a Baba black sheep, that will distribute its property into 3 parts. It will give one wool to one person, second, then 2 people will walk that hill, one fell down. Jack and Jill. When I ask Shlokas, nobody is telling. Jack and Jill, Jack and Jill. So we learnt all these Vedic portions. Then after learning this, then we went to elementary school, that shoot system, root system, plumule, radical, 2-mark question. Then we used to, the 6th, 7th, 8th, we studied about great acharyas, Aurangzeb Acharya, Babara Acharya, Jahangir Acharya, all these Anushtana paras we learnt. Then we have to write. Now most of these are objective questions. Well, I used to study, it used to be answer in not less than 1,000 words. Answer in not less than 500 words. By the time I've just received the main sheet, my friend will say, additional sheet. Yo, main sheet ke onnu illa, additional sheet varaikkum poyachu. Then we have to do one Mangala Sutram. Yanti Mangala Sutratam. There in geography, we will get that map. Then that log sheet used to come. For that we have to see. And our Purva Janma Karma, our map will get lost. Arabochu 30 marks. So all this we will do. 10 standard, something, we 100-mark question, 20-mark question. Then people will ask, what are you planning to take? That person won't know our background. My grandmother will come and answer, he's going to become an engineer. This boy doesn't know the difference between velocity and speed. He will become engineer. Then we will go to some Muthu Lakshmi Engineering College. Muthu Lakshmi, Gaja Lakshmi, Pavada Lakshmi, every Lakshmi has one engineering college. Then we will go to that engineering college 4 years. Then after that they will come and do masters. ஏதோ ஒரு கிராமத்துல இங்க ஒரு ஆஸ்திரியாவுக்கும் சுவிட்சர்லாண்டுக்கும் நடுவுல ஒரு கிராமத்துல யூனிவர்சிட்டி, அந்த யூனிவர்சிட்டிக்கே நம்ம இருக்கோமா இல்லையான்னு தெரியாது. அங்க போய் ஒரு மாஸ்டர்ஸ் பண்ணி, then finally while doing engineering this person will realize I want to do CFA, finance. அவ்வளவுதான் போச்சு. அடுத்தது 3 levels of CFA. Then that person will do one PhD in colonial literature. சம்பந்தம் இல்லாம பண்ணி, then he may become an Upanyasakar. So போச்சு. So all this will happen, karmic circle. Then you will have children, grandchildren, and again when the Atma exits, you have to be born again and do the same thing again. Imagine, same Jack and Jill, same thing. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam, punarapi janani jathare shayanam, iha samsare bahudustare kripaya pare pahi murare bhaja govindam bhaja govindam govindam bhaja mudhamate samprapte sannihite kale nahi nahi rakshati dukrim karane. Adi Shankara brings the essence so well. Punarapi jananam, punarapi maranam. Aren't we concerned about the larger picture? Same birth, same thing. This time Frankfurt, next time we don't know where. Ukraine, inga po vendidda or janma. We won't know how we will be born, where will we be born, what will be our janma like. So when you're in this janma itself, make ways to get rid of this cycle. You should never be born again. Same pain you have to undergo. So this is what the mother asks her son, tell me about the birth. He explains. Then he finally says, when the Atma leaves the body, it is called Tristhunak Shobanam. Shastram says that when the Atma leaves the body, it is a very painful process. It is called Bhaimarati. On day 5 at about 7 o'clock, I will tell you, which is Wednesday. There is one shlokam. Gopascha sambhuya guhopamakshim swaghosha nirhadita vishwagosham gatasu maikshanta nishacharintam bhimakritim bhaimarathim ivanyam. That day will explain. So when the Atma leaves the body from the Hridaya Kamalam, it is a very painful process in natural death. It is called Tristuna Kshobanam. We are all living now. I still remember when my maternal great-grandfather, he was there in the hospital. I was a school-going boy, and hospital beds will be at a certain height. My grandmother asked me to check on the sound. When I went and heard from my maternal great-grandfather, I still remember telling my grandmother, it is akin to the churning of the buttermilk. Because Shastram says the Atma which has lived in that body has to come out. It's a very painful process. From Hridaya Kamalam, it has to exit. So it is called Tristuna Kshobanam. There you believe that there is an imaginary snake called as Kundalini. That is where you have all the chakras. Now finally it has to give a signal. Atma, come out. First the Pancha Jnanendriyas will start dysfunctioning. Even if you say, remind their name, they cannot listen. They will not be able to recognize. When that painful process begins, slowly the Atma has to come out. It has to exit through Navadwaram, either through mouth, nostrils, eyes, ears, or through the place where we pass stools and urine. It has to come out through that path. So from the Sthula Shariram, it has to take a Sukshma Shariram and has to come out. Very painstaking process. This is what Shastram says. I remember there is one Shastric line. If at all you adhere to Shastram, you will get an indication that your Atma is going to leave. Because when you take bath and look into the mirror, you will see some other person in your place. I remember the Acharya who taught me Gita Bhashyam, a great Sanskrit scholar. While he used to teach me, he used to give me one example. It seems while he was a young boy, one day while he was reading Gita, his mother had just taken bath and was coming to dress up. That time she told her son, "My dear son, there is some other lady in the mirror." My Acharya was engrossed, said, "Don't keep lamenting something, mother. Nobody, who else will be there?" As he was reading, she dropped dead. This is what he used to tell me. And when you do Arghya Pradhanam to the sun, in the afternoon, you can see a black ring around the sun in one of your eyes. That means you are very close to Yama. This is what Shastram says. Today from now onwards, nobody will look at the mirror. All mirrors will be out. So this Jivatma, when it reaches, it has to exit through one of the nadis. Nadi. When you go to an Ayurvedic doctor, they'll check your pulse, right? There are 101 nadis. The 101st nadi is called Sushumna. It's called Murdhanya nadi. So if the Jivatma exits through the Sushumna nadi alone, it can escape the next birth. The first 100 nadis, if it goes, then there is a Punarapi Jananam, Punarapi Maranam. So for that, Krishna says, I will be your person who shows you the path in Gita. Pitrisuraganayaji dharmiko yo grihastha nacha nipatati kale dakshinagami. So there is a southern path which is full of smoke. It's called Dhumadi Margam. Then there is a northern path called as Archiradi Margam, where there is light. Only through Archiradi Margam there is no rebirth. Mayi nihitamakamam karmadukat patartham kapilatanurithitvam devahutyai nyagadihi. So listening to this, so much information filled Upadesham given by Kapila, Devahuti does pranamam to her son and says, Putra, I was thinking you are just my son. You're Sakshat Bhagavan who has given me knowledge of how Atma enters and exits. And finally, eventually, she was granted moksha. So this Kapilopadesham is about how Jnanam can come from somebody younger than you. See, in Dharma, in Sanatana Dharma, we don't treat age alone as a factor for respect. We treat wisdom. If it is a small child which is giving you Upadesham, don't ever have this arrogance. In Tamil we say, Mollachu, moonu ela vidala. Tamil Naatle, rendu ela tavikira paade kashtam. Moonu ela vidala. So, knowledge can come from anyone, anybody. You should not check who is this person, what is his caliber, her caliber. Knowledge comes, prostrate. That's all. Revere that person. You affect Mother Nature, you trouble the equilibrium, like how we have homeostasis in our body. Similarly, you disturb the equilibrium in Mother Nature, she will give it to you in such a way that you will repent for generations. That is what Varaha Avatar tells through Hiranyaksha. And generally, especially in Tamil or English, if we have to say something obnoxious or something dirty, we compare it with a boar or a pig. Periya panni kuti hai. You dirty swine. I ate like a pig. But in Bhagavat Srishti, nobody is superior or nobody is inferior. To us, a pig may look ugly. That may look at us and think we are ugly. Then nammena bariye oh alaga varkum sumara irukkum. Sundaran niyum sundari nyanumla paattu dhaan. Sumara dhaan irukum. See, for Swajati Viseshanam, we think dogs are ugly. For them, they are beautiful and we are ugly. So, nobody is superior or inferior in Bhagavat Srishti. Varaha Avataram. Age is no factor for reverence. Kapila Upadesham. So, we have dealt with these two charitrams with Bhagavata Mahatmyam today. Tomorrow, we have beautiful charitrams of Jada Bharata, Dhruva Charitram, Pruthu Charitram, Daksha Yagyam, Ambarisha Charitram, Ajamilopakhyanam. Lot of incidents tomorrow. And the day after, Narasimha Avataram and Gajendra Moksham. Fourth day, Krishna will be born after Matsya Avataram, Kurma Avataram, Vamana Avataram. Then comes Krishna Jananam on day 4. And alongside, you will all be amazed, all these acharyas whom I have had the association of knowing for many years now under the great guidance of our dear Sharmaji, our Guruji. We have had the opportunity to always do Bhagavatam together. They are all morning 5 a.m. onwards. They have been working incessantly in this cold. You know how the weather is brutal, but they have been fighting all these challenges and have been reciting for 6 to 7 hours continuously every day. So Parayanam is happening. Then there is Pravachanam. Pravachanam is only for 2 hours. My job is easier. For them it is tough. So Annamalai has taken all the efforts to bring Parayanam and Pravachanam together. And of course the volunteer team, they have been doing such humongous task. Bhagavatam is a yajnam. Make a vow, 7 days I will listen. You know, you're all so talented. You can manage your time at work, school, everywhere. And you've got prasadam. But don't come only for the prasadam time. You should come at 6:30. Then towards the end, we will have prasadam. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha Swasti Prajabhya Paripalayantam Nyayena Margena Mahim Mahishaha Gobrahmanebhya Shubhamastu Nityam Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu. His grandfather was a great Bhagavatam exponent of Malliyur. So I have had the opportunity to speak in their premises as well. I have to just talk one line about his grandfather. So Bhagavata Hamsam he was called, and he was so great that he has done thousands of Bhagavata Saptaham. Thousands. Those 15,000 verses he has recited so many thousand times that at one point in time, as he grew old, his eyes were not functioning. So they were so worried as to how could he do Saptaham? Because 15,000 verses. The beauty was, he began. He didn't need the book. All the 15,000 verses he could recite without looking at the book. He is his grandfather in Malliyur in Kerala. So they were the AIs of those days. They didn't need books. So we are all blessed to have such great people. Kavitarkika Simhaya Kalyana Gunashaline Srimate Venkateshaya Vedanta Gurave Namaha. We'll have the Harati now and then we will continue. Thank you.
രാധാരമണ മുകുന്ദ മുരാരേ ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം പവനപുരേശ രാധാ കൃഷ്ണ ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം ദേവി മഹേശ്വരി പാർവതി ശങ്കരി ശരണം മേ തവ സാംബ സദാശിവ ശംഭോ ശങ്കര ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം പ്രഹ്ലാദ പ്രിയ നരഹരിമൂർത്തെ ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം രാധാരമണ മുകുന്ദ മുരാരേ ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം ശരണം മേ തവ ചരണയുഗം സ്വസ്തി പ്രജാഭ്യഃ പരിപാലയന്താം ന്യായേന മാർഗേണ മഹീന്മഹീഷാः ഗോബ്രാഹ്മണേഭ്യः ശുഭമസ്തു നിത്യം ലോകാः സമസ്താः സുഖിനോ ഭവन्तു കായേന വാചാ മനസേന്ദ്രിയൈർവാ ബുദ്ധ്യാത്മനാ വാ പ്രകൃതേ സ്വഭാവാത് കരോമി യദ്യത് സകലം പരസ്മൈ നാരായണായേതി സമർപ്പയാമി ശ്രീമന്നാരായണായേതി സമർപ്പയാമി അക്ഷരപദഭ്രഷ്ടം മാത്രാഹീനം ച യദ്ഭവേത് തത്സർവം ക്ഷമ്യതാം ദേവനാരായണ നമോസ്തുതേ വിസർഗബിന്ദുമാത്രാണി പദബാധാക്ഷരാണി ച ന്യൂനാനി ചാതിരിക്താനി ക്ഷമസ്വ പുരുഷോത്തമ ക്ഷമസ്വ പരമേശ്വര സർവത്ര ഗോവിന്ദനാമ സങ്കീർത്തനം
ഗോവിന്ദ
സാംഗായ സായുധായ സവാഹനായ സപരിവാരായ സർവാലങ്കാരഭൂഷിതായ അഖിലാണ്ടകോടി ബ്രഹ്മാണ്ടനായകായ ശ്രീകൃഷ്ണായ പരബ്രഹ്മണേ നമഃ വേദോക്തമംഗളനീരാജനം സമർപ്പയാമി മനസാഭീഷ്ട പ്രാർത്ഥനാഞ്ച സമർപ്പയാമി യാനി കാനി ച പാപാനി ജന്മാന്തരകൃതാനി ച താനി താനി വിനശ്യന്തി പ്രദക്ഷിണപദേ പദേ പാപോഹം പാപകർമാഹം പാപാത്മാ പാപസംഭവാ ത്രാഹി മാം കൃപയാ ദേവ ശരണാഗതവത്സലാന്യഥാ ശരണം നാസ്തി ത്വമേവ ശരണം മമ തസ്മാത് കാരുണ്യഭാവേന രക്ഷ മാം പുരുഷോത്തമ സർവത്ര ഗോവിന്ദനാമ സങ്കീർത്തനം.
ഓൾ ദി ബെസ്റ്റ്.